The transport shuttle descended toward Station Veridax, and Lieutenant Hana pressed her face against the small window to get a better view. The station looked like a massive wheel spinning slowly in the darkness of space, its surface covered in lights from 1,000 different species. She had seen pictures before, but seeing it in person made her stomach twist with nervousness and excitement. Beside her sat Ambassador Jinwoo, a calm man in his 50s who had been working with alien species for the past 3 years. He was reading through documents on his tablet, occasionally frowning at something he found. Hana knew he was worried, even though he tried to hide it. "You still have time to change your mind," Jinwoo said without looking up from his screen. "We could request a postponement. Buy ourselves a few more weeks." Hana shook her head. "We both know that would make us look weak. Earth needs this win, Ambassador. We need to show them we belong here." The shuttle docked with a soft thump, and they felt the artificial gravity shift as the station's systems took over. Hana stood up and grabbed her small bag. She wore a simple gray uniform with the Earth insignia on her shoulder. Nothing fancy or decorated. She was 28 years old, stood about 170 centimeters tall, and had short black hair tied back in a practical style. To anyone from Earth, she looked like a regular soldier. To the aliens they were about to meet, she would look like prey. The airlock opened, and immediately Hana felt the difference. The air was thin and cold, making her lungs work harder with each breath. The station was designed for most galactic species, which meant it was uncomfortable for humans. She saw Jinwoo pull his jacket tighter around himself. A tall, thin alien waited for them in the corridor. Its body was covered in silver fur, and it had 4 eyes arranged around its elongated head. It wore an official-looking uniform with the tribunal symbol on the chest. "Ambassador Jinwoo, Lieutenant Hana, welcome to Station Veridax," the alien said through a translation device that hung around its neck. The voice sounded mechanical and emotionless. "I am Attendant Cole. Please follow me to your quarters. The opening session begins in 4 standard hours." They walked through the station's corridors, and Hana tried not to stare at everything around her. Aliens of every shape and size moved past them, going about their business. Some looked almost human, just with different skin colors or extra fingers. Others were completely strange, like the creature that seemed to be made of floating crystals, or the group of small furry beings that moved together like a single organism. What Hana noticed most was how they looked at her. Some stared openly, their expressions ranging from curiosity to what she could only describe as pity. A few pointed and whispered to their companions. One large alien with tusks actually laughed when it saw her, saying something in its own language that made its friends join in. Jinwoo noticed too. "Ignore them," he said quietly. "They think they know what humans are. They're wrong." Their quarters were small but functional, with 2 separate sleeping rooms and a common area. The ceiling was too low for comfort, clearly designed for species shorter than humans. Hana had to duck slightly when moving between rooms. "Get some rest if you can," Jinwoo suggested. "I'll attend the preliminary session and handle the diplomatic parts. You just need to focus on staying ready." But Hana couldn't rest. She changed into her training clothes and started going through her exercise routine in the limited space. Push-ups, squats, stretches, breathing exercises. Her body felt heavy in the station's weak gravity, like she was moving through water. She knew this was dangerous. Her muscles were used to Earth's gravity, which was almost twice what the station provided. She would have to be careful not to accidentally break things or hurt someone by using too much force. 4 hours later, Hana stood in the grand chamber of the Galactic Tribunal. The room was enormous, with curved walls that stretched up into darkness. Hundreds of seats were arranged in a circular pattern around a central floor where she now stood. Representatives from dozens of species filled those seats, watching her with interest. At the highest point of the chamber sat 3 massive thrones, and in those thrones were the arbiters. These were beings from the oldest species in the galaxy, creatures that had been alive for thousands of years. They looked almost human, but their skin seemed to shimmer with an inner light, and their eyes were solid gold with no visible pupils. "We call this session to address the grievances filed against Warlord Thaxron of the Virith Empire," one of the arbiters said. Its voice filled the chamber without need for any device. "The charges include 17 violations of colonial agreements, unauthorized military occupation, and refusal of diplomatic resolution. The Virith Empire has rejected all attempts at negotiation." Hana looked across the central floor and saw him for the first time. Warlord Thaxron was a monster. He stood at least 3 meters tall, maybe more. His body was covered in thick scales that looked like armor, colored in patterns of red and black. He had 4 arms, each one ending in hands with claws as long as kitchen knives. A thick tail swayed behind him, and when he opened his mouth to speak, Hana could see rows of sharp teeth. The Virith Empire does not recognize the authority of this tribunal in matters of territorial expansion, Thaxaron said. His voice was deep and rumbling like rocks grinding together. We claim those worlds by right of strength, as is our tradition. The Arbiter's golden eyes narrowed. Then you leave us no choice. According to galactic law, when diplomatic solutions fail, disputes may be settled through trial by combat. Do you accept this resolution? Thaxaron laughed. The sound echoed through the chamber, and several smaller species in the audience visibly flinched. I accept. I will crush whatever champion you send against me, just as I have crushed all who opposed me before. The Arbiter turned its attention to the human section of the chamber. Does Earth present a champion for trial by combat? Jinwoo stood up from his seat. Earth presents Lieutenant Hana as our combat representative. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens talking to each other in hundreds of languages, the translation devices creating a chaotic mix of sounds. Hana heard the word human repeated over and over, usually followed by what sounded like disbelief or laughter. Thaxaron looked down at Hana, and his eyes widened in what she recognized as surprise. Then he began to laugh again, louder this time. This is Earth's champion? This tiny, soft creature? He walked closer to her, his footsteps making the floor shake slightly. Up close, he was even more terrifying. One of his hands was bigger than Hana's entire head. He leaned down, bringing his face close to hers. Look at you, he said, his breath hot and smelling like sulfur. No claws, no fangs, no armor on that soft skin. No tail, no venom, nothing. You were prey, little human. Your species evolved on a paradise world where nothing challenged you. You know nothing of real struggle, real combat. Hana looked up at him calmly. Her heart was pounding in her chest and every instinct screamed at her to run. But she had trained for this. She had volunteered for this mission knowing exactly what it would involve. I accept the challenge, she said clearly, her voice steady. Thaxaron straightened up and turned to address the Arbiters. I will try to make her death quick, he said. It would be cruel to let such a fragile thing suffer. The Arbiter nodded slowly. The trial by combat will commence in 7 standard rotations. Both participants will have access to the training facilities. The combat will be held in the Grand Arena under standard galactic rules. Do both parties understand and accept these terms? I accept, Thaxaron said immediately. Hana took a deep breath. I accept. Then this session is concluded. Prepare yourselves. As the chamber began to empty, Hana noticed the looks she was getting from the other species. They weren't looks of respect or even neutral interest. They were looks of pity and sadness, like people watching someone walk towards certain death. She heard whispers as she passed. Poor creature. Why would they send someone so weak? Humans must not understand what trial by combat means. She won't last 30 seconds. Jinwoo walked beside her as they left the chamber. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. Even now we could find another way. Hana shook her head. They need to learn what humans really are, Ambassador. They think Earth is a paradise world. They think we're soft and weak because we don't have claws or armor or venom. She smiled, and there was something cold in that smile. They have no idea what Earth really is. They're about to find out. In the distance, she could hear Thaxaron still laughing, already celebrating his victory. The sound should have frightened her. Instead, it made her angry. And anger Hana had learned long ago was fuel. 7 days. She had 7 days to prepare to teach the galaxy a lesson about underestimating humans. 7 days to show them what a real Deathworlder could do. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light travel. Every major news network, every information hub, every social communication platform carried the same story. A human had accepted trial by combat against Warlord Thaxaron. Within hours, it became the most talked about event in galactic society. Hana watched some of the coverage on the screen in their quarters. A Krell news anchor, its multiple arms gesturing for emphasis, showed footage of previous combat trials. Warlord Thaxaron has never lost a trial by combat, the anchor said. He has faced 43 opponents over his career, 43 victories. 17 of those opponents died in the arena. The screen switched to show an analysis program where 3 different aliens sat around a table. They were reviewing footage of Hana from the tribunal session, freezing the image to point out various features. "Look at the bone structure," one of them said, using a pointer on the screen. "Extremely thin compared to most species. No protective plates, no natural armor at all. The skin appears to be single-layer tissue, easily damaged." "What about speed?" another analyst asked. "Could the human use speed as an advantage?" The first one made a gesture that might have been their species' version of a laugh. "Humans are actually quite slow. Their top running speed is only about 30 standard units. A Virith warrior can move at nearly 50 standard units. No, speed will not save this one." The third analyst pulled up more data. "I've been looking at Earth's classification in our database. It's listed as a standard Class G world. Comfortable temperature ranges, abundant water, moderate gravity at 1.0 standard. It's actually rated as one of the more pleasant worlds in the galaxy. The humans evolved in essentially perfect conditions. So no natural advantages at all? None that I can identify. This Lieutenant Hana appears to be an average specimen of her species. Height 1.7 standard units, mass approximately 65 standard units. By comparison, Warlord Thaxeron is 3.1 standard units tall and masses over 400 standard units. The size difference alone is absurd." Hana turned off the screen. She had seen enough. Jinwoo entered the room, carrying food from the station's human-compatible cafeteria. The meal looked unappetizing, some kind of protein paste with vegetable matter, but it would provide the calories she needed. "You shouldn't watch that," Jinwoo said, setting the food down. "It'll just make you angry." "I'm already angry," Hana replied, but she smiled when she said it. "Let them think what they want. It'll make the truth more impressive." "Speaking of truth," Jinwoo said, sitting down across from her, "I've been approached by 7 different species asking if we want to withdraw. They're genuinely concerned. They think we don't understand what we've agreed to." "What did you tell them?" "I told them that humans know exactly what we're doing." He paused, looking at her carefully. "Hana, I've read the classified reports from Earth. I know what our people are capable of. But even I'm worried. Thaxeron isn't just big. He's a trained warrior with decades of experience." Hana finished her food before responding. "Ambassador, do you know what the average gravity is for most galactic species' homeworlds?" "About 0.6 standard, I think." "And Earth's gravity?" Jinwoo nodded slowly. 1.0 standard, which is about 1.7 times the galactic average. I see your point. That's just one thing," Hana said. "They look at humans and see no claws, no armor, no obvious weapons. They think that makes us weak. They don't understand that we didn't need those things because we made weapons instead. We made tools. We made fire. We conquered our entire planet not by being the strongest or fastest, but by being the smartest and the most stubborn." She stood up and started stretching. "Earth isn't a paradise world, Ambassador. I don't know how that classification ended up in their database, but it's completely wrong. Earth is a nightmare. Our atmosphere would poison half the species in the galaxy. Our diseases are so aggressive that our immune systems are constantly fighting wars inside our bodies. Our temperature swings would require most species to wear protective suits. And yes, our gravity would cripple most of them within hours." Jinwoo smiled. "I'll make sure that information gets corrected in the official records." After the combat, the next day Hana went to the training facilities. The station had a large gym area where species could maintain their physical conditioning. When she entered, dozens of aliens stopped what they were doing to stare at her. She ignored them and walked to the human section, a small area that had been modified with heavier gravity plates. A man was already there, running on a treadmill. He was in his 30s, muscular and fit, with a serious expression on his face. He stopped when he saw Hana and stepped off the machine. "Lieutenant Hana?" he asked. "I'm Taman. Command sent me to help with your preparation." They shook hands, and Hana felt the strength in his grip. "What's your background?" "Hand-to-hand combat instructor, Special Forces, 15 years of service. I've been training soldiers for the last 5 years." He looked around at the watching aliens. "Want to give them a show?" Hana grinned. "Why not?" They moved to the sparring area, a padded section designed for practice combat. The watching aliens pressed closer to the transparent barriers, curious to see what humans looked like when fighting. Several of them were recording on their devices. Taman and Hana began slowly, warming up with basic strikes and blocks. To the watching aliens, it probably looked slow and clumsy, but gradually they increased the speed. Their movements became faster, harder, more intense. The sound of impacts echoed through the gym. Hana swept Taemin's legs and he rolled with the fall, coming back up instantly. He caught her with a controlled strike to the ribs and she absorbed it, countering with a combination that forced him backward. They fought for 10 minutes without stopping, their breathing heavy but controlled. When they finally stopped, both were sweating despite the cold air. The watching aliens looked confused. One of them, a large creature covered in blue feathers, approached the barrier. "Excuse me," it said through its translator. "That was your species combat training?" Hana wiped sweat from her face. "Just a warm-up, why?" It looked very violent. "In my culture, such aggressive behavior would indicate serious conflict." Taemin laughed. "That's not violent. That's friendly sparring. We're holding back significantly." Holding back? The alien's feathers ruffled in what might have been concern. "That level of force would injure most species." "Exactly," Hana said. She turned back to Taemin. "Again? But let's increase the gravity this time." Taemin nodded and walked to the control panel. He adjusted the settings for their section of the gym, increasing the gravity from station standard to 0.8 Earth normal. It still wasn't full Earth gravity, but it was closer. The difference was immediately visible. Hana and Taemin moved normally, but to the watching aliens they suddenly seemed to be moving much more easily, almost floating. What they didn't understand was that for humans, this was still reduced gravity. They were actually holding themselves back to avoid damaging the equipment. Meanwhile, in another part of the station, Warlord Thaxron was conducting his own training. He performed for crowds of admirers, shattering practice dummies with single strikes, roaring challenges at imaginary opponents. His subordinate, Commander Vrex, stood nearby with a worried expression on his scaled face. "My lord," Vrex said carefully, "perhaps we should research Earth's species more thoroughly. It would be wise to understand any potential advantages they might possess." Thaxron waved one of his massive hands dismissively. "I have fought against 43 opponents from 37 different species, Vrex. I know how to adapt to any fighting style. This human is no different, smaller and weaker than most, actually. But my lord, what if—" "Enough," Thaxron's voice boomed across the training area. "I will not dishonor myself by overthinking a battle against such an inferior opponent. The human's defeat is already certain. I need only show up and strike once, perhaps twice if she is lucky enough to dodge the first blow." Vrex said nothing more, but his concern remained. He had survived many campaigns by being cautious, by never underestimating an enemy. Something about this human bothered him, though he could not say exactly what. Perhaps it was the calm way she had accepted the challenge. Perhaps it was something else. In the human quarters that evening, Dr. Suji arrived. She was a woman in her 40s, carrying multiple data tablets and looking exhausted. She worked as a xenobiologist, studying the differences between human physiology and other galactic species. "I've been trying to explain to the Galactic Scientific Council what humans actually are," she said, collapsing into a chair. "They keep telling me my data must be wrong. They refuse to believe the measurements." "What measurements?" Jinwoo asked. Suji pulled up a document on her tablet. "Everything. Our bone density is 3 times higher than the galactic average. Our muscle fiber efficiency is off their charts. Our healing capabilities are classified as improbable by their medical standards. And when I tried to explain about our pain tolerance, they thought I was joking." She looked at Hana. "They literally cannot comprehend that humans can continue functioning with injuries that would completely incapacitate most species. I showed them historical records from Earth wars, soldiers fighting with broken bones, internal bleeding, injuries that should have been fatal. They think the records are fake." The Grand Arena was the largest structure on Station Veridax. Built thousands of years ago for exactly this purpose, it could hold 50,000 spectators from various species, each section carefully designed with appropriate atmospheric conditions and gravity levels. Today, every single seat was filled. Beings had traveled from across the galaxy to witness what they believed would be the shortest trial by combat in history. Hana stood in the preparation chamber beneath the arena floor. The room was small and quiet, designed to give fighters a final moment of peace before the violence began. She wore minimal armor, just light plates over her chest and vital organs. Her arms and legs were mostly exposed, showing the smooth skin that everyone thought was so fragile. She had wrapped her hands carefully, protecting the small bones while keeping her fingers flexible. Taemin helped her with final adjustments to her armor straps. "Remember," he said, "the arena floor is reinforced, but it's designed for standard galactic species. At full Earth gravity strength, you could actually damage it if you're not careful. I'll be careful, Hana promised. She rolled her shoulders, loosening her muscles. Her heart was beating fast, but her mind was calm. This was just another fight. She had been in hundreds of fights during her training. This one just had bigger stakes and a much larger audience. One more thing, Taman said. The Arbiters approved your request for Earth standard gravity in your half of the arena. They didn't understand why you wanted it, but they agreed. That's going to feel strange at first because you've been in station gravity for the past week. Hana nodded. It'll feel like coming home. Above them, the arena was filling with noise. 50,000 voices in hundreds of languages, all talking excitedly about the upcoming combat. Vendors moved through the crowd selling food and drinks. Children of various species sat on their parents' laps, excited to witness history. News crews from every major network had cameras positioned at multiple angles. In the human section, Ambassador Jinwoo sat with Dr. Suji and a small group of other human personnel from the station. They were surrounded by aliens who kept glancing at them with expressions of pity. One well-meaning Praxian, a being made of crystalline structures, leaned over to Jinwoo. I am sorry for your loss, it said, its voice chiming like glass bells. Your warrior seems brave. It is unfortunate that bravery cannot overcome such a physical mismatch. Jinwoo smiled politely. The fight hasn't started yet. On the opposite side of the arena, in the Virath Empire section, Warlord Thaxron was performing for his supporters. He wore ceremonial armor decorated with skulls from previous opponents, each of his forearms flexed, showing muscles like steel cables. His tail lashed behind him, capable of breaking bones with a single strike. The crowd roared their approval as he raised his arms in anticipated victory. Commander Vreck sat nearby, but he was not celebrating. He had spent the past 7 days reviewing every piece of information he could find about Earth and humans. What he found troubled him deeply. The official database listed Earth as a pleasant, easy world. But when he dug deeper, into scientific reports and atmospheric analysis, he found something different. Earth's gravity was significantly higher than most worlds. Earth's oxygen content was dangerously high for many species. Earth's temperature ranges were extreme, and the diseases, the parasites, the predators that existed there were terrifying. He had tried to share this information with Thaxron, but the Warlord refused to listen. Pride and overconfidence had blinded him. Frex could only hope that his lord's superior size and strength would be enough, but doubt gnawed at his mind. The arena's lights suddenly changed, dimming to create dramatic effect. A hush fell over the crowd. The 3 arbiters appeared on their elevated platform, their bodies glowing with that strange inner light. The oldest arbiter raised one hand, and its voice filled the massive space without need for amplification. We gather today to witness trial by combat, as is the ancient right under galactic law. Warlord Thaxron of the Virath Empire has been challenged by Lieutenant Hana of Earth Humanity. The rules are simple and old. Combat continues until surrender, incapacitation, or death. No weapons beyond natural biology are permitted. Armor and physical enhancements are allowed within standard regulations. Do both parties understand and accept these terms? From the preparation chambers, 2 voices responded. I accept, rumbled Thaxron's deep voice. I accept, said Hana's voice, clear and calm. Then let the trial begin. Warriors enter the arena. The floor split open and 2 platforms rose from below. On one side, Warlord Thaxron emerged to thunderous cheering from his supporters. He was massive, terrifying, a monster from nightmares. His armor gleamed in the arena lights and his forearms spread wide as he roared his challenge to the crowd. On the other side, Hana rose on her platform into sudden silence. She looked tiny in comparison, almost childlike. Her simple armor and exposed skin made her appear vulnerable and fragile. Some in the crowd actually looked away, not wanting to see what they knew would come next. The platforms locked into place at opposite ends of the arena floor. The distance between them was about 50 meters. The floor itself was smooth gray material, designed to withstand enormous impacts. Above them, cameras captured every angle, broadcasting to billions of viewers across the galaxy. Hana took a deep breath as her feet touched the arena floor. Immediately, she felt the difference. The gravity in her half of the arena was Earth standard, exactly 1.0. After a week of living in the station's weak 0.6 gravity, it felt like someone had placed weights on her shoulders. But it was familiar weight, comfortable weight. Her muscles knew this feeling. This was home. Thaxron started walking toward her, each footstep heavy and deliberate. He was taking his time, making the crowd wait, building the tension. His eyes were locked on Hana, and he was grinning, showing all those sharp teeth. "Last chance to surrender, little human," he called out, his voice amplified by the arena's sound system. "I promise to make it quick if you yield now. I will not shame you for recognizing the obvious." Hana didn't respond. She dropped into a combat stance, her weight balanced, her hands raised but relaxed. She watched his approach with focused attention, noting how he moved, how he distributed his weight, which of his forearms he seemed to favor. The crowd's noise grew louder as Thaxron closed the distance. 20 meters, 15 meters, 10 meters. Hana didn't move, didn't back away. She just stood there waiting, watching. When Thaxron was 5 meters away, he suddenly exploded into motion. For something so large, he moved with shocking speed, crossing the final distance in a blur. His upper right arm swung in a massive strike aimed at Hana's head, moving fast enough to make the air whistle. It was a killing blow, designed to end the fight instantly. Hana wasn't there. She dropped and rolled forward, passing under the strike so close that she felt the wind of its passage. She came up behind him, her hands finding the exposed back of his knee where the armor plates didn't quite meet. She struck hard, putting earth gravity muscle strength into the blow. The impact sounded like a hammer hitting stone, echoing across the suddenly silent arena. Thaxron stumbled forward, surprised. That strike should have broken the human's hand. That's what the data said. Human bones were thin and fragile, but his knee joint hurt. Actually hurt. And when he turned around, the human was standing there with her hand still intact, watching him with calm eyes. The crowd erupted in confused noise. What had just happened? How had something so small struck something so large and made it stumble? The replay showed on the massive screens around the arena, slowing down the movement so everyone could see. The analysts started talking rapidly, trying to explain what they had witnessed. Thaxron's surprise turned to anger. He roared and charged again, this time using all 4 arms in a complex pattern of strikes designed to overwhelm any defense. Each blow had enough force behind it to shatter a Krell warrior's exoskeleton. Each strike could crush bones and rupture organs. Hana moved like water flowing around his attacks. She didn't try to block the massive strikes, she evaded them, using minimal movement to stay just out of reach. When she saw an opening, she struck back, targeting the same weak points she had studied for 7 days. The joints, the gaps in armor, the exposed areas that every Vireth warrior had. One of her strikes connected with his lower left elbow. Another hit the side of his ribs where the plates separated. A third caught him on the thick muscles of his tail. Each impact made Thaxron grunt with pain and surprise. Each hit proved that the human could hurt him. In the stands, the crowd was going insane. This wasn't supposed to happen. The human was supposed to die in the first exchange. Instead, 3 minutes had passed, and not only was she alive, she was landing strikes that clearly hurt the Warlord. Ambassador Jinwoo was gripping his seat so hard his knuckles were white. Dr. Suji was taking notes frantically, recording every detail for the official record that would change everything. Around them, aliens were standing up, shouting in confusion and excitement. On the arena floor, Thaxron was starting to realize he had made a terrible mistake. The human was fast, much faster than he expected. She was strong, impossibly strong for her size, and she was smart targeting his. Hana moved forward with purpose now, and Thaxron could see the change in her eyes. Before, she had been studying him, learning his patterns, understanding his capabilities. Now she was done learning. Now she was going to teach. The Warlord swung with his upper arms in a crossing pattern, a move that had crushed opponents before. Hana didn't dodge. She stepped inside his reach, getting so close to his massive body that his arms couldn't generate full force. Her fist drove upward into his solar plexus, the spot where his chest plates met. The impact made a sound like breaking wood. Thaxron's breath exploded out of him. That exact spot, was a weak point that only a Vreth warrior would know about. How did the human know? He tried to grab her with his lower arms, but she was already moving, sliding around his side, her elbow striking hard into his kidney area. The crowd was on their feet now, all 50,000 beings watching in stunned disbelief. The human was attacking, genuinely attacking, and the Warlord was being forced backward. Every strike she landed was placed perfectly, targeting nerve clusters and joint weaknesses that should have been secrets of Vireth anatomy. In truth, Hana had spent 7 days studying everything available about Vireth physiology. She had watched hours of combat footage, reading the subtle tells in how Vireth warriors protected certain areas, how they moved to minimize exposure to specific strikes. Humans were pattern recognition specialists. It's how their ancestors hunted. Watch, learn, adapt, overcome. Thaxron roared in frustration and pain. He was stronger, he was bigger, he had more arms and natural weapons, but none of it mattered if he couldn't hit his target. The human moved like smoke, always just out of reach of his massive strikes, always finding ways to hurt him. He tried a new strategy, using his tail like a whip while attacking with his arms simultaneously. It was a technique that required intense coordination, but was nearly impossible to defend against. The tail came from low while his arms struck high, creating a trap with no escape. Hana saw it coming. Instead of trying to dodge, she jumped, using Earth gravity-trained leg muscles to launch herself upward with force that surprised even her. She cleared the tail by centimeters and landed on it, running up its length like it was a bridge. Before Thaxron could react, she was on his back, her arm wrapping around his thick neck. The arena exploded with noise. What they were seeing was impossible. The tiny human was on top of the massive warlord, and her arm was locked around his throat in a chokehold. Thaxron thrashed wildly, trying to reach her with his arms, but she had positioned herself in the one spot where none of his 4 arms could effectively reach. For 30 seconds, they struggled. Thaxron spun and jumped, trying to throw her off. Hana held on, her legs wrapped around his torso, her arm maintaining pressure on his neck. She could feel his pulse through the thick scales, could feel it starting to slow as blood flow to his brain decreased. Then Thaxron did something desperate. He threw himself backward, planning to crush her against the arena floor with his enormous weight. It was a dangerous move that could hurt him too, but it was his only option. They hit the ground together with tremendous force. Hana was caught between the reinforced floor and over 400 kilograms of armored warlord. The impact drove the air from her lungs and sent lightning bolts of pain through her already injured ribs. Her grip loosened and Thaxron rolled away quickly, gasping for air. They both lay on the arena floor for a moment, breathing hard. Thaxron got to his feet first, standing on shaking legs. Hana was slower. When she stood, she was favoring her left side, where the pain from her ribs was getting worse. Blood was running from her nose and mouth now, and she was breathing in short, careful gasps. The crowd noise had changed. It was no longer mocking or confident. Now it was uncertain, worried, excited in a different way. The humans in the stands were silent, watching with intensity. They knew what Hana was doing. She was showing the galaxy what a human could endure. Dr. Suji was making rapid notes. 3 broken ribs, possibly 4. Probably internal bleeding. Concussion likely. Any other species would be unconscious or dead. She's still fighting. Thaxron charged again, but this time there was desperation in his movements. He was hurt too, more hurt than he wanted to admit. His joints ached from the precisely targeted strikes. His throat was bruised from the chokehold. His confidence, his certainty of easy victory, was completely gone. He caught Hana with a direct strike from 2 of his arms, hitting her in the center of her chest. The blow lifted her off her feet and sent her flying backward. She crashed into the arena wall with enough force to crack the reinforced material, leaving an impact crater in the supposedly indestructible surface. Hana slid down the wall and lay at its base, not moving. The crowd went silent. Surely that was the end. No one could survive that. The medical teams moved toward their entry points, ready to rush onto the floor. The arbiters leaned forward in their thrones. The oldest one prepared to declare the combat finished, to spare the human any further damage. It was clear she had fought bravely, far beyond what anyone expected, but there were limits to what even courage could overcome. Then Hana moved. It was just a twitch at first, her hand closing into a fist. Then her other hand pressed against the wall, pushing. Slowly, impossibly, she dragged herself upright. Blood covered the front of her armor. Her left arm hung at an odd angle, probably dislocated at the shoulder. Her breathing was labored and wet-sounding, indicating lung damage. But she was standing, and she was still smiling. "Is that all you've got?" she said. Her voice rough but clear enough for the arena's systems to pick up and amplify. Something broke in Thaxron at that moment. He had thrown everything at this human. He had struck her with enough force to kill a Krell warrior. He had crushed her against the floor. He had thrown her into a wall hard enough to crack it. And she was still standing, still fighting, still smiling at him with blood on her teeth. For the first time, he understood what he was facing. This wasn't a warrior from a soft world. This was something that had evolved in conditions he couldn't imagine. had been shaped by a planet so dangerous that simply surviving it made you into something the galaxy had never seen before. This was a Deathworlder, but his pride wouldn't let him quit. He was Warlord Thaxron. He had 43 victories. He would not be defeated by something half his size. He charged one more time, roaring his defiance. All four arms spread wide to catch her no matter which way she dodged. Hana didn't dodge. She ran at him, and for the first time in the entire fight, she stopped holding back. She stopped worrying about damaging the arena. She stopped trying to pace herself. She stopped being careful. She unleashed what Earth's gravity had built into every fiber of her body. Her fist struck his chest armor dead center. The armor, designed to withstand plasma weapons, cracked. Not dented, not scratched, but actually cracked straight through. The sound of it echoed across the stunned arena like a gunshot. Thaxron's eyes went wide. That wasn't possible. That armor was rated to. Her second strike hit his lower left arm, and the bone inside broke with a sound like snapping wood. The arm hung uselessly. Her third strike caught him in the knee joint, and something in the complex structure gave way. He collapsed to one knee, struggling to stay upright. The crowd was screaming now, a sound made of 50,000 voices expressing shock, excitement, fear, and awe all mixed together. The cameras captured every moment, broadcasting it across the galaxy to billions of viewers who couldn't believe what they were seeing. Hana moved behind him with speed that the cameras struggled to track, her working arm wrapped around his neck again. This time not for a chokehold, but for leverage. She pulled, using her body weight, using her Earth-trained muscles, using every bit of strength that a Deathworld childhood had given her. She was trying to break his spine. Thaxron felt it, felt the pressure on his vertebrae, felt the joints beginning to separate. Terror filled him, primal and absolute. He was going to die. This human, this supposedly fragile creature, was going to kill him with her bare hands in front of the entire galaxy. Surrender, Hana said quietly, her voice somehow carrying across the silent arena. Or I finish it. Thaxron's pride fought with his survival instinct. His entire life he had never yielded, never surrendered. He was a warlord, a champion, a warrior of the Verith Empire. To surrender to a human would be the ultimate shame, but he could feel his spine starting to give way. He could feel his consciousness beginning to fade from the pressure on his neck. Death was coming, real and immediate. Commander Vrex stood up in the Verith section, his voice ringing out across the arena. Yield, my lord, yield! Preserve your life. The arbiters rose from their thrones, watching with ancient eyes that had seen thousands of combats, but nothing quite like this. A human, wounded and bleeding, holding a Verith warlord in a death grip, waiting for his answer. Thaxron felt his strength leaving him. He felt the darkness closing in, and finally his survival instinct won over his pride. I yield, he choked out, the words bitter as poison. I surrender. Hana released him immediately. Thaxron collapsed to the arena floor, gasping for air, his body shaking with exhaustion and pain. Hana woke up in the medical bay 3 days later. The room was quiet and white, filled with equipment from a dozen different species' medical traditions. Dr. Suji sat beside her bed, reviewing data on a tablet. When she saw Hana's eyes open, she smiled. Welcome back, Suji said. You've been healing remarkably well, which has confused the alien doctors to no end. Hana tried to speak, but her throat was dry. Suji helped her drink some water before she tried again. Did we win? Did we win? Suji laughed. Hana, you didn't just win. You changed everything. The entire galaxy has been talking about nothing else for 3 days straight. She turned her tablet around to show Hana the news feeds. Every major network, every information channel, every social platform was filled with analysis of the fight. The footage had been watched billions of times. Scientists were arguing about human physiology. Military strategists were re-evaluating their understanding of combat capabilities. Governments were scrambling to update their files on Earth. What about Thaxron? Hana asked. He's alive, recovering in another part of the medical bay. You broke 3 of his arms, shattered his knee, cracked 2 ribs, and bruised his spine. He'll need months of treatment, maybe years. Suji paused. He asked to see you, actually. Several times. Hana was quiet for a moment, processing this. And me? How bad was I hurt? 4 broken ribs, dislocated shoulder, severe bruising over 60% of your body, mild concussion, and internal bleeding that we had to repair surgically. Any other species would still be unconscious. You were up and asking questions within 72 hours. Suji shook her head in amazement. I've been trying to explain to the galactic medical community how human healing works. They keep insisting that our recovery rates violate known biological principles. The door opened and Ambassador Jinwoo entered, followed by Taemin. Both men looked tired but happy. Jinwoo pulled up a chair next to the bed. The tribunal delivered their official judgment yesterday, he said. Complete victory for Earth. The Virith Empire has withdrawn from all disputed territories and agreed to pay reparations. More importantly, they've issued a formal apology and requested peaceful diplomatic relations moving forward. That's not all, Taemin added. We've received over 300 requests from other species wanting to establish or improve diplomatic ties with Earth. Some of them are offering trade agreements, technology exchanges, and mutual defense pacts. Everyone wants to be friends with humanity now. Hana closed her eyes briefly. It was overwhelming. All she had wanted to do was win the fight, to prove that humans deserved respect. She hadn't expected to change galactic politics overnight. What about our classification? She asked. Are we still listed as being from a paradise world? Suji smiled grimly. That's been corrected, forcefully. I submitted my complete report on Earth's actual conditions, and this time they couldn't ignore it. Earth is now officially classified as a Class 12 death world. That's the highest danger rating in the galactic database. They're calling humans an apex survival species, Jinwoo added. It's a new category they had to create. It means we evolved on a world so dangerous that we developed capabilities beyond what most species achieve with technological enhancement. Over the next few days, as Hana continued healing, she learned more about the impact of the combat trial. The betting pools had lost trillions of credits when she won. Several major gambling establishments went bankrupt overnight. There were investigations into whether any humans had insider knowledge and profited from the fight. But it turned out that even most humans had bet against Hana. They believed in her, but the odds were just too good to pass up. The scientific community was in chaos. Dr. Suji's report had opened a floodgate of research into human capabilities. Universities were offering grants to study Earth biology. Medical schools wanted to understand human healing and pain tolerance. Military academies were requesting human combat instructors. The entire understanding of what was possible for a biological organism had been rewritten. Some species were frightened. They looked at humans now and saw not friends but potential threats. If one human could do what Hana did, what could millions of humans do? What about billions? There were calls in some governments to limit human expansion, to contain Earth before humanity became too powerful. But most species were simply amazed. They looked at the fight footage and saw not just combat, but an example of what evolution could achieve under the right conditions. Or the wrong conditions, depending on how you looked at it. Earth had tried to kill humanity at every turn, and instead of dying out, humans had become something remarkable. A week after the fight, Hana was cleared to leave the medical bay. She still had to wear a support brace for her ribs and carry her arm in a sling, but she could walk and function normally. Taemin met her at the door. Someone wants to talk to you, he said. If you're willing. He led her to a private meeting room. Inside, Warlord Thaxron sat in a specially designed chair, his body still covered in medical equipment. Commander Vrek stood beside him. Both Virith warriors straightened when Hana entered. There was a long silence. Thaxron looked at her with eyes that held no anger, only something like respect mixed with shame. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, lacking its usual booming confidence. I underestimated you, he said simply. I underestimated your entire species. For that I apologize. Hana nodded slowly. I accept your apology. For what it's worth, you fought well. You're strong and skilled. In a fair fight where we were equally experienced and trained, it could have gone differently. No, Thaxron said firmly. You are wrong. I have been a warrior my entire life, over 60 standard years. You are what, 28? 29? In a truly fair fight, where we both had the same life experience, you would be unstoppable. He paused. May I ask you something? Go ahead. What is Earth really like? The truth, not what your databases say. Hana thought about how to explain it. Earth is beautiful, she said finally. It has forests and oceans and mountains. It has places of incredible peace, but it's also constantly trying to kill you. The weather can shift from comfortable to deadly in hours. There are thousands of species of plants and animals that are poisonous or predatory. Our diseases evolve faster than we can make cures for them. Our gravity crushes our bones if we don't maintain constant physical conditioning. Our atmosphere would poison many species. And we have natural disasters that can level entire cities. She met his eyes. Humans didn't become strong because we wanted to. We became strong because anything weaker didn't survive. For millions of years, Earth filtered out the weak, the slow, the fragile. What's left is a species that refuses to quit, that heals from injuries that would kill most beings, that can push through pain and exhaustion because the alternative was extinction. Commander Vrek spoke for the first time. That is what I tried to tell you, my lord. I found descriptions of Earth in the deep archives. It is listed as one of the few worlds where complex life evolved, but probably should not have. The conditions are too hostile. But life found a way anyway, and it became fierce in the process. Taxron nodded slowly. I understand now. You are not warriors because you love fighting. You are warriors because your world gave you no choice. Every human is a survivor of conditions that would break most of us. That's about right, Hana agreed. They talked for another hour, discussing their respective worlds, their cultures, their understanding of strength and honor. When Hana finally left, she felt that something important had changed. This wasn't just about winning a fight anymore. This was about two very different species learning to understand each other. The final session of the Galactic Tribunal was held 10 days after the combat. Hana stood before the three arbiters. Her injuries mostly healed thanks to human regenerative capabilities and advanced medical care. The chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of worlds, all wanting to witness the official conclusion. The oldest arbiter spoke, its voice carrying the weight of centuries. We have reviewed the complete record of the trial by combat. We have studied the new information about Earth and humanity. We have consulted with our wisest scholars and scientists, and we have reached our conclusions. It paused, looking directly at Hana. First, we acknowledge that we were wrong. Our database contained information about Earth that was incomplete and misleading. This was not intentional deception, but rather a failure of our knowledge-gathering systems. Earth is not a paradise world. It is among the most dangerous habitable planets we have ever recorded. Second, we recognize humanity as a full and equal member of the galactic community, with all rights and responsibilities that entails. Your species has proven itself worthy through both courage and capability. Third, we offer our formal apology for the dismissive treatment humans have received since making first contact. You were underestimated, and that underestimation could have led to tragedy. We are fortunate that you chose to teach us through demonstration rather than through vengeance. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species cheered. Others argued. A few sat in stunned silence, but the decision was final. Humanity was now recognized as an important player in galactic society.